The transport ship landed with a heavy thud on the rocky surface of Kepler 442c. Dust clouds rose around the landing pad as 12 different species stepped out into the alien sunlight. Each group looked around nervously at the strange planet that would be their home for the next month. Commander Tail of the Saurian Empire stood waiting for them. His green scales gleamed in the morning light, and his yellow eyes scanned each contestant with cold judgment. Behind him stood 3 other Academy instructors from different species, all wearing the same serious expressions. "Welcome to the Galactic Survival Academy final examination," Tail announced in his deep, rasping voice. "This is the hunger simulation. You have 30 days to prove your species deserves advanced galactic citizenship." The contestants shifted uncomfortably. There were the tall, thin Klaxi with their insect-like features. The crystal beings from Xerion Prime sparkled like living diamonds. The aquatic hydrons wore special breathing gear that made wet gurgling sounds. Each species had sent their best survivors. Then there were the humans. Minsu stood about average height with kind eyes and calloused hands from years of cooking. He had volunteered for this test after studying alien plant biology for 5 years. Next to him, Hana adjusted her equipment pack and checked her soil analysis tools. She had grown food on 3 different planets before coming here. Jaewon carried a worn notebook and kept looking around at all the different species with obvious curiosity. "The rules are simple," Tail continued. "Survive alone. Use only what we give you. No help from others. No sharing resources. The weak will fail. The strong will prove themselves worthy." He pointed to a table covered with small survival packs. "Each contestant gets basic supplies. 1 water purification tablet per day. Emergency rations for 3 days only. A simple shelter kit. A basic tool. After that, you are on your own." The other species nodded grimly. This was what they expected. A test of individual strength and willpower. Minsu raised his hand. "Excuse me, Commander. Are we allowed to eat local plants?" Tail's eyes narrowed. "If you can identify safe ones without dying, yes. But remember, you work alone. What about sharing information about which plants are safe?" Hana asked. Several instructors exchanged glances. "Sharing is forbidden," Tail said firmly. "This tests individual survival skills." Jaewon wrote something in his notebook but said nothing. One by one, contestants were assigned to different areas of the planet. The Saurians got the desert region. The Klaxi were sent to the swamplands. The crystal beings went to the mountain caves. Each species was dropped off in an environment that would challenge them. The humans were assigned to a dense forest area with tall trees and thick undergrowth. As their transport flew away, leaving them alone, the 3 humans looked around at their new home. "So," Minsu said, breaking the silence, "anyone else think those rules were kind of strange?" "Very strange," Hana agreed. "Why would you forbid sharing survival information?" "That makes no sense." Jaewon flipped through his notebook. "I studied the Academy records. Every year, about 60% of contestants fail this test. Most from starvation or eating poisonous plants." "That seems wasteful," Minsu said. He walked over to examine a bush with purple berries. "Look at this. These berries have the right color pattern. See how the leaves are shaped? This looks like it might be related to earth elderberries. Are you going to taste it?" Hana asked. "Not yet, but I want to run some basic tests." Minsu pulled out a small field kit. "If these are safe, they could feed a lot of people." "People?" Jaewon asked. "You mean just us 3? Minsu paused in his work. "Well, I was thinking about everyone. All the contestants. If we find good food sources, why not share?" "Because it is forbidden," Hana said, but she did not sound convinced. "Is it though?" Jaewon asked. "Tal said we could not share resources. He said we had to work alone, but he never said we could not teach others about safe plants." "That sounds like lawyer talk," Minsu laughed. "But maybe you are right." They spent the rest of the day exploring their forest area. Hana tested soil quality and found it was very rich, good for growing food. Minsu identified 17 different plants that looked promising for eating. Some reminded him of vegetables from Earth. Others were completely new. Jaewon mapped their area and noted where other contestants had been dropped off. The crystal beings were only 2 kilometers away through the forest. The aquatic hydrons were near a large lake to the south. As night fell, they built their shelter. But instead of 3 separate shelters like the rules suggested, they built one larger shelter with 3 sections. It saved materials and would be warmer. Tomorrow I want to test these berries properly, Minsu said as they shared their emergency rations. If they are safe, I can probably make them into a kind of jam. That would preserve them longer. I found a stream with very clean water, Hana added. We might not need to use our purification tablets if I can build a proper filter. And I want to check on how the other contestants are doing, Jaewon said. Not to help directly, but just to observe. For my research. They fell asleep to the sound of strange alien birds calling in the trees above them. The next morning, Minsu carefully tested the purple berries. First he rubbed them on his skin to check for reactions. Then he touched them to his lips. Finally, he ate just one small berry and waited. After 2 hours with no bad effects, he ate several more berries. They were sweet and tangy, with a flavor like blueberries mixed with citrus. Even better, they were packed with vitamins. These are amazing, he told the others. Much better than our emergency rations. And there are hundreds of bushes around here. Hana had spent the morning building a water filtration system using sand, charcoal, and plant fibers. The water that came out was cleaner than their tablets could make. Jaewon returned from his scouting trip with interesting news. The crystal beings are having trouble. They need direct sunlight to process energy, but the forest blocks too much light. They look weak already. That is too bad, Minsu said, but he was looking thoughtful. What are you planning? Hana asked. Nothing against the rules, Minsu said with a smile, but I was thinking about these berries. They are full of natural sugars, the kind that might help crystal beings process energy even in low light. You want to help them, Jaewon said. I want to share good food, Minsu corrected. There is a difference. That afternoon, while Hana continued mapping edible plants and Jaewon studied the local ecosystem, Minsu did something that had never happened in the history of the hunger simulation. He walked to the crystal beings area, carrying a small bag of purple berries and detailed notes about how to prepare them safely. The monitoring station went silent as alarms started beeping. Commander Tell stared at his screens in confusion. What is the human doing? He demanded. We are not sure, sir, his assistant replied. This has never happened before. On planet surface, Minsu was introducing himself to 3 very surprised crystal beings and explaining how concentrated berry sugar could help them maintain energy in low-light conditions. The test had been running for exactly 36 hours. Everything was about to change. The crystal beings stared at Minsu with their glowing blue eyes. Their leader, who called himself Kirill, looked confused and suspicious. Why do you offer us food? Kirill asked. His voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. The rules say we must survive alone. Minsu smiled and sat down on a fallen log. The rules say we cannot share resources, but teaching someone about food is sharing knowledge. That is different. How is it different? Asked another crystal being named Vex. If I give you my food, then I have less food, Minsu explained. But if I teach you how to find your own food, then we both have more food. Knowledge grows when you share it. The third crystal being Zara looked at the purple berries with interest. These small fruits can really help us process energy. Try one, Minsu said. But only one at first. Wait 2 hours to make sure your body accepts it well. He showed them how to crush the berries to make a sweet paste. Mix this with water and drink it slowly. The natural sugars should help you store energy even when sunlight is weak. Kirill carefully took one berry. After a moment, his crystal body began glowing slightly brighter. I feel stronger. Good, Minsu said. There are many bushes with these berries. I can show you where to find them. But why help us? Vex asked again. We are competitors in this test. Minsu thought for a moment. On Earth we have a saying. A rising tide lifts all boats. When everyone does better, the whole community becomes stronger. After spending an hour with the crystal beings, Minsu returned to the human camp. He found Hana had made an amazing discovery. Look at this, she said excitedly, showing him a thick root she had dug up. It looks like a sweet potato but grows much faster. And taste this. Minsu bit into the cooked root. It was delicious with a nutty flavor and creamy texture. This is incredible. How nutritious is it? Very nutritious, Hana said. It has complete proteins, good fats, and complex carbohydrates. One root like this could feed a person for a whole day. How many did you find? Hundreds. They grow everywhere in this forest. Most people would walk right past them because they look like weeds. Jaewon came back from another scouting trip with more news. The insect people, the Klaxi, are having serious problems. They need to eat constantly because of their high metabolism, but they only brought 3 days of rations. What do they usually eat? Minsu asked. Grains and fermented plant matter, according to my research, Jaewon said. Their digestive system is very efficient but needs constant fuel. I wonder if we could ferment some of the local plants, Minsu said thoughtfully. That might work for them. Are you planning to help them too? Hana asked. I am planning to prevent people from starving when there is plenty of food available, Minsu said. That just seems like common sense. The next morning, the three humans began what they would later call their Great Cataloging Project. They systematically tested and documented every edible plant in their area. Minsu focused on taste and preparation methods. He discovered that the purple berries could be dried to make something like raisins. The thick roots could be ground into flour. Several types of leaves made excellent tea that helped with digestion. Hana studied the nutritional content and growing patterns. She found plants with high protein, others rich in vitamins, and some that contained important minerals. She also learned how to cultivate them for better harvests. Jaewon documented everything and created detailed instruction guides with simple drawings. His goal was to make the information easy to understand for any species. By the third day, they had identified 47 different edible plants, 12 types of mushrooms, and several protein-rich insects. More importantly, they had learned how to prepare all of them safely. We have enough food knowledge to feed a small city, Hana observed as they organized their notes. Then we should share it, Minsu said simply. The monitors will not like this, Jaewon warned. I saw more surveillance drones yesterday. They are watching us closely. Let them watch, Minsu said. We are not breaking any rules. We are just being good neighbors. That afternoon, Minsu visited the Klaxi in their swamp area. He brought samples of fermented plant paste he had made using local grains and roots. The Klaxi leader, Brix, was initially hostile. Stay away, human. We do not need your help. I am not offering help, Minsu said calmly. I am offering a recipe exchange. You teach me about Klaxi fermentation techniques, and I show you how to ferment local plants. Both of us learn something new. This approach worked better. Brix was curious about human food preparation methods. When he tasted Minsu's fermented paste, his compound eyes widened with surprise. This is very good, he admitted. The fermentation process is different from ours, but the result is excellent. The local grains ferment faster than earth grains, Minsu explained. They should work well with your digestive system, and there are fields of these grains just 2 kilometers from here. Brix shared some Klaxi fermentation secrets in return. Their methods could preserve food for months and created beneficial bacteria that helped with nutrition absorption. By evening, Minsu had established the beginnings of an interspecies recipe exchange program. Meanwhile, Hana had encountered the aquatic hydrons at the lake. They were struggling because their water purification tablets were running low, and the lake water contained minerals their bodies could not process. Your filtration system could help us, said Naya, the hydron leader, but we have nothing to trade. You do not need to trade, Hana said. I will show you how to build your own filters. The materials are all around the lake. She spent 2 hours teaching the hydrons how to create biological filtration systems using lake plants and natural sand deposits. In return, the hydrons shared their knowledge of underwater plant cultivation. Humans are very strange, Naya told her companions later. They give away valuable knowledge for free. At the monitoring station, Commander Tell watched his screens with growing confusion. His carefully designed test was supposed to eliminate the weak through competition and starvation. Instead, survival rates were improving across all species. Sir, his assistant reported, calorie intake among all contestants is now above baseline levels. Stress indicators are dropping. Social cohesion measurements are, well, they are off our charts. What do you mean off the charts? The contestants are cooperating, sir. They are sharing meals and working together. This has never happened before in any survival test. Tell stared at the screen showing Minsu teaching a group of mixed species how to identify safe mushrooms. Shut down the test, he ordered. Sir? You heard me. Shut it down. This is not how the test is supposed to work. But sir, no rules have actually been broken. The humans are very careful about that. They share knowledge and recipes, not actual resources. Tail watched as Jaewon showed a group of contestants how to build improved shelters using local materials. Everyone was laughing and talking like old friends. This is impossible, Tail muttered. Contestants are supposed to compete, not cooperate. They are supposed to struggle, not thrive. On the planet's surface, the three humans had no idea their success was causing problems. They were too busy with their latest project. "I think we should build a central meeting area," Minsu suggested. "Somewhere all the species can gather to share food and knowledge." "Like a community center," Hana agreed, "with cooking areas for different dietary needs. And a library for storing all our plant and recipe information," Jaewon added. They had been on the planet for only 4 days, but they had already begun transforming a survival test into something entirely different, something that looked suspiciously like civilization. By the end of the first week, something had happened that no one at the Galactic Academy had ever seen before. Contestants were walking toward the human camp instead of away from it. It started with the smell. Minsu had spent 3 days perfecting a cooking method for the thick roots Hana had discovered. He roasted them over an open fire with herbs and spices made from local plants. The aroma drifted through the forest like an invitation. The first visitors were the Hydrons. Naya approached the human camp carefully, her breathing apparatus making soft bubbling sounds. "We smell something wonderful," she said. "What is that scent?" "Dinner," Minsu said simply. "Would you like to try some?" "But the rules say we cannot share food resources," Naya replied, though she looked very interested. "I am not giving you my food," Minsu explained. "I am teaching you how to cook your own food." Very different thing. He showed Naya how to prepare the roots, how to season them with local herbs, how to cook them so they stayed tender inside but crispy outside. Naya watched carefully and took notes. This cooking method would work with our underwater tubers too, she realized. We have similar roots in our lake, but we always ate them raw. Cooking often makes nutrients easier to absorb, Hana added. It also kills harmful bacteria and makes food taste better. That evening, Naya returned with 2 other Hydrons. They brought lake tubers and asked Minsu to help them cook a proper meal. Soon the smell of roasted vegetables filled the air around both the human camp and the lake shore. Word spread quickly among the contestants. The next morning, Bricks arrived with 3 other Klaxi. They carried bundles of the local grains that Minsu had shown them how to ferment. "We made the fermented paste like you taught us," Bricks said, "but it tastes different from yours." "Can you show us what we did wrong?" Minsu tasted their paste. It was good, but could be better. "You fermented it too long," he said. "Also, try adding these dried berries during fermentation. They have natural yeasts that will improve the flavor." "Natural yeasts?" asked one of the other Klaxi. And so began the first interspecies cooking workshop in galactic history. Minsu found himself teaching basic fermentation science to insectoid beings who had been fermenting food for thousands of years. But they had never experimented with cross-species techniques. They had always stuck to traditional Klaxi methods. "Try this," Minsu said, showing them how to control fermentation temperature using sun-warmed stones. "And this technique helps develop more complex flavors." The Klaxi were fascinated. They began experimenting immediately, creating new paste varieties using local plants and traditional Klaxi techniques combined with human methods. By midday, even the crystal beings had arrived. "We heard about these workshops," Kirill said. His crystal body was glowing much brighter than when Minsu first met him. "The berry paste you taught us has helped greatly, but we want to learn more. What do crystal beings usually eat?" Minsu asked. "We absorb energy directly from sunlight and certain minerals," Vex explained. "But this planet has unusual mineral deposits. Some help us, others make us sick." Hana immediately became interested. "I have been testing soil minerals all week. I can show you which areas have the best mineral content for energy absorption." "Also," Minsu added, "I have been working on concentrated mineral broths. They might help you process energy more efficiently." He showed them how to extract minerals from certain plants and rocks, then concentrate them in water to create energy-rich drinks. The crystal beings had never thought to process minerals this way. "This is amazing," Zara said after trying the mineral broth. "We absorb energy much faster this way. It is like concentrated sunlight." As the day continued, more species arrived. The gaseous nebulans floated into camp, their cloud-like bodies shimmering with curiosity. "We heard interesting scents," said their leader. "Whisper, we process nutrients through smell and chemical absorption. These new aromas are very appealing." Minsu had never cooked for gaseous beings before. It took some creativity, but he learned to create aromatic herb blends that the nebulans could absorb directly. Different combinations provided different nutrients. This is much more efficient than our usual feeding methods, Wisp said, his gaseous form glowing with satisfaction. We can absorb more nutrients in 1 hour than we usually get in a whole day. Even the predatory Fangari eventually arrived, though they approached much more cautiously. We hunt for our food, growled their leader, Scar. We do not need plant-eater techniques. Have you been successful hunting on this planet? Jawan asked politely. Scar's silence was answer enough. The native animals were either too fast, too small, or too well hidden. The Fangari were struggling. I cannot help you hunt, Minsu said, but I can show you how to preserve meat when you do catch something, and how to make the most of every part of your prey. This approach worked. Scar was interested in meat preservation techniques. Minsu showed him how to smoke meat using local wood, how to make jerky that would last for weeks, and how to use bones and organs to make nutritious broths. These methods would help us survive lean hunting periods, Scar admitted. Our ancestors knew some of these techniques, but we had forgotten them. Knowledge that is not used gets lost, Minsu agreed. That is why sharing it helps everyone. By the end of the week, something remarkable had happened. The human camp had become a central meeting place for all 12 species. Not because the humans were in charge, but because they had created a space where everyone could learn from each other. J1 documented everything. Not just the recipes and techniques, but the social interactions. Species that had been formal and distant with each other for centuries were now sharing meals and laughing together. This is unprecedented, he wrote in his notes. Food sharing appears to be a universal social bonding mechanism. All species respond positively to shared meals regardless of their biology. Hana had begun planning something even more ambitious. What if we created permanent growing areas? She suggested. Each species could cultivate the foods they need most. We could share growing techniques and help each other maintain the gardens. You want to turn this temporary survival test into a permanent settlement? Minsu asked. Why not? Everyone is thriving here. Everyone is learning. Everyone has enough food and is making new friends. This is what civilization should look like. At the monitoring station, emergency meetings were being held every day. The test has completely failed, Commander Tal reported to his superiors. Instead of eliminating weak contestants, we have created some kind of interspecies commune. Are they breaking any specific rules? Asked General Vorth. No, sir. They are very careful about that. They share knowledge and cooking techniques, but not actual resources. They teach skills, but do not give away supplies. And the survival rates? 100%, sir. Not only is no one failing, everyone is healthier than when they started. Food security is higher than our baseline measurements. Psychological wellness scores are maximum across all species. General Vorth studied the reports with confusion. This makes no sense. The test is designed to create stress and competition. How are they achieving cooperation instead? The humans, sir. They have completely changed how the other species think about survival. Instead of individual competition, they have created collaborative abundance. Shut down the test, General Vorth ordered. Sir, if we shut down the test now, it will be the first time in Academy history that we stopped a survival test, due to success rather than failure. I do not care. This is not how the test is supposed to work. But on planet Kepler 442c, nobody was listening to the Academy anymore. They were too busy building something entirely new. Commander Tal stood in front of the largest monitoring screen at the Academy, watching something that should have been impossible. 12 different species sat around a massive campfire, sharing what appeared to be the largest feast in galactic history. Status report, he demanded from his assistant. All monitoring systems are showing maximum positive readings. Sir, the assistant replied nervously. Nutrition levels are above optimal. Social cooperation indices are beyond our measurement scale. Individual stress levels are approaching 0. That cannot be right. Check the equipment. We have checked everything 6 times, sir. The equipment is working perfectly. The contestants are just thriving. On the screen, Tile watched Minsu teaching a mixed group of aliens how to prepare some kind of elaborate meal. The human was laughing as he showed a crystal being how to season mineral broth, while a gaseous nebulon absorbed aromatic herbs nearby. This is not a survival test anymore, Tale muttered. This is a cooking festival. Sir, we have another problem, his assistant said. Word about the test results has leaked to other academy departments. The advanced diplomacy instructors are requesting access to observe the human techniques. The Cultural Studies Department wants to interview the contestants. Even the Engineering Academy is interested in the sustainable resource management methods being used. Tail turned away from the screen, but he could still hear the sound of laughter drifting through the audio monitors. How did 3 humans destroy a test that has worked perfectly for 200 years? They did not destroy it, sir. They transformed it. Into what? Into something better, sir. Tal glared at his assistant. Better? The purpose of the hunger simulation is to identify the strongest individuals from each species. It tests limits. It creates pressure. It separates the worthy from the weak. But sir, what if there is another way to identify worthiness? What if cooperation shows strength better than competition? Before Tal could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the monitoring station. What now? Toyle demanded. Sir, we have unauthorized personnel approaching the planet. Multiple ships. Who? Academy instructors from other departments, sir. They are requesting permission to land and observe the contestants. Denied. This is a controlled test environment. Sir, one of the ships contains General Vorth and 3 members of the Academy board. Tal felt his scales go cold. The board is coming here, why? They want to see the impossible test results for themselves, sir. On planet Kepler 442c, the contestants had no idea their success was causing chaos at the Academy. They were too busy with their latest project. I think we need a permanent community center, Hannah suggested as she surveyed their growing settlement. Something large enough for everyone to gather comfortably. With different cooking areas for different dietary needs, Minsu added. The Fangari need meat preparation space. The crystal beings need mineral processing areas. The Nebulans need scent gardens and a library, Jaewon said. We have documented so much knowledge now. Cooking techniques, plant identification, sustainable cultivation methods, interspecies communication strategies. This information could help every planet in the galaxy. You want to build a permanent settlement? Asked Carol. The crystal being had become much more talkative since his energy levels improved. Why not? Hannah replied. Everyone is happy here. Everyone has enough food. Everyone is learning new things every day. This seems like a good place to live. But the test will end soon, Brix pointed out. The Academy will make us leave. Will they? Jaewon asked thoughtfully. What if we request to stay? What if we petition to make this a permanent interspecies research station? The idea spread through the community like wildfire. Species that had lived separately for centuries were now imagining a future where they could continue working together. We could study sustainable living techniques, Naya suggested. Every species could contribute their knowledge. And develop new food cultivation methods, added Wisp, his gaseous form shimmering with excitement. And create the first truly interspecies cuisine, Minsu said. Imagine the possibilities when you combine cooking techniques from 12 different species. Scar, the Fangari leader, had been quiet during this discussion. Finally, he spoke up. My people have been warriors for 10,000 years. We know only competition and conquest. But here, I have learned that cooperation can be a form of strength too. Strength through unity instead of strength through domination, Jaewon said, writing in his notebook. It is a completely different philosophy. It is a better philosophy, Zara said firmly. That evening, they held what Minsu called a planning feast. Each species brought their best dishes and shared their ideas for the permanent settlement. The crystal beings wanted to build energy, gardens where sunlight could be concentrated and stored. The Hydrons proposed creating sustainable water systems that could serve all species. The Klaxi offered to develop fermentation facilities for food preservation. Even the Nebulans had ideas. We could create atmospheric processors, Wisp suggested. Systems that would make any planet habitable for multiple species simultaneously. This could work, Hannah realized. We could build the galaxy's first truly integrated multi-species colony. A place where different biological systems support each other instead of competing. A model for how the galaxy could function, Jaewon added. All because we shared some berry recipes, Minsu laughed. The next morning, General Vorth's ship landed near the monitoring station. Commander Tile met him with a full report of the test's failures. Let me understand this correctly, General Vorth said as he reviewed the data. Instead of 60% failure rate, you achieved 100% success rate. Instead of individual competition, you observed unprecedented interspecies cooperation. Instead of resource scarcity, you documented resource abundance through sustainable management. Yes, sir. The test is completely ruined. Ruined. General Vorth looked up from the reports. Commander, these are the best test results in Academy history. But sir, the purpose of the test is to eliminate the weak through individual struggle. Is it? Or is the purpose of the test to identify the species most capable of surviving and thriving in challenging environments? Tail paused. He had never thought about it that way. Sir, are you suggesting the humans succeeded by redefining success? I am suggesting the humans succeeded by demonstrating a superior survival strategy. Look at these numbers, Commander. Food security, shelter quality, social stability, knowledge acquisition, resource sustainability. By every measure that matters, this test produced the strongest results we have ever recorded. But they broke the fundamental assumptions of the test. Good, General Vorth said firmly. Maybe our assumptions needed breaking. He walked to the monitoring screen where the contestants could be seen working together to build their permanent community center. For 200 years, we have tested individual survival skills. But what if individual survival is not the highest form of strength? What if collaborative thriving is better, sir? Commander, I want you to prepare a full report on the human methods. Every technique, every strategy, every innovation, the Academy Board wants to study their approach. For what purpose, sir? General Vorth watched as Minsu taught a group of young Klaxi how to bake bread, while their parents learned sustainable farming from Hana. To revolutionize how we think about survival, cooperation and civilization itself. Sir, what about the test? Do we shut it down? Shut it down? General Vorth laughed. Commander, this test just became the most successful experiment in Academy history. We are going to extend it indefinitely, sir. I want to see what happens when you give brilliant cooperative species unlimited time and resources to build something together. On the planet below, the contestants had no idea their little food-sharing community was about to change everything. The galaxy thought it knew about civilization. They were too busy planning tomorrow's menu. 3 weeks into what was supposed to be a month-long survival test, ships began arriving at Kepler 442c almost daily. The Academy had officially extended the experiment, but word had spread throughout the galaxy about the impossible results from Survival Test Cohort 447. Minsu stood in the community center they had built, teaching his third interspecies cooking workshop of the week. But this time, his audience included Academy instructors, diplomats, and researchers from dozens of different worlds. The key to successful fermentation, he explained to a mixed group of students that included both contestants and visitors, is understanding that different species have different beneficial bacteria. When you combine techniques, you create entirely new flavor possibilities. Dr. Zen, the head of cultural studies from the Academy, raised her hand. How did you know that combining Klaxi fermentation methods with human temperature control would work? We did not know, Minsu admitted. We experimented. We made mistakes. We tried again. That is how cooking works. You learn by doing, not by reading rules. But weren't you afraid of poisoning someone? Asked another instructor. Of course. That is why we tested everything carefully. Small amounts first. Wait for reactions. Then gradually increase. Safety first, but curiosity second. Brix, who had become the settlement's co-expert on fermentation, added his perspective. Humans approach learning differently than most species. Instead of following ancient traditions exactly, they experiment and adapt. This creates new knowledge instead of just preserving old knowledge. In another part of the community center, Hana was leading a workshop on sustainable agriculture for a group that included Academy engineers and planetary development specialists. The secret is working with natural systems instead of fighting them, she explained as she showed them the integrated, growing gardens they had developed. Each species needs different nutrients from soil. But what one species takes out, another species can put back in. This could revolutionize colonial agriculture, said Engineer Korv. Most species establish separate agricultural systems when they colonize new planets. But if different species could farm together, you could feed more people using less land and resources, Hana finished. Plus, the soil stays healthy longer because it never gets depleted of any single nutrient. How long did it take you to develop this system? Asked Dr. Lin from the Agricultural Academy. About 2 weeks of experimentation, Hana said. But we had help from every species here. The crystal beings understand mineral content. The hydrons know water systems. The Claxi are experts in soil biology. When you combine everyone's knowledge, solutions happen quickly. Meanwhile, J1 had accidentally become the galaxy's first professor of interspecies social dynamics. His workshop had attracted diplomats from the Galactic Council. Traditional diplomatic protocols assume that different species need to maintain formal boundaries, he explained to his audience. But we discovered that informal social interaction through shared activities builds trust much faster than formal negotiations. You mean eating together creates better diplomatic relationships than official meetings? Asked Ambassador Trix. Exactly. When you share a meal that you cook together, you have already cooperated successfully on something. That makes it easier to cooperate on other things. But how do you handle conflicts between species with very different values? Asked another diplomat. J1 gestured toward the main dining area, where Scar was patiently teaching young crystal beings how to prepare meat properly while Kirill showed young Fangari how to concentrate mineral energy. Shared practical knowledge seems to overcome cultural differences, he observed. When you are focused on learning something useful, old prejudices matter less than new skills. The most dramatic change, however, was happening at the academy itself. Commander Tell walked through the academy cafeteria, hardly recognizing the place. For 200 years, different species had eaten separately, consuming nutritionally adequate but flavorless rations. Now the cafeteria featured cooking stations designed for multiple species, with academy students learning to prepare meals together. How are the nutrition levels? He asked the head of food services. Up 30% across all species, she replied. Student satisfaction scores have tripled, and somehow food costs have actually decreased. How is that possible? Efficiency, sir. When students cook together, they waste less food. When different species share techniques, they find better ways to prepare ingredients. And when meals taste good, students eat appropriate portions instead of overeating or undereating. Tail nodded, though he still felt confused by how quickly everything had changed. What about discipline? Are students still following proper academy protocols? Better than before, sir. Cooperation in the kitchen seems to improve cooperation in other areas too. Student conflicts are down, study group formation is up, and interspecies communication skills have improved dramatically. All because they cook meals together? All because they do useful work together, sir. Cooking just happens to be work that everyone needs to do, so it creates natural opportunities for cooperation. That evening, Tail received a message that surprised him even more. The Galactic Council had officially requested that the Academy develop a new curriculum based on the Kepler 442c model. They wanted every Academy student to learn interspecies, cooperation through practical collaboration. But the biggest surprise came when Tail received a personal message from his own government. The Saurian Empire, known throughout the galaxy for military discipline and individual strength, wanted to send observers to learn the human community building techniques. Our traditional methods produce excellent individual warriors, the message read, but these human methods seem to produce stronger communities. Strong communities support stronger individuals. We wish to learn this approach. Back on Kepler 442c, the original contestants had no idea they were reshaping galactic civilization. They were too busy with their latest project. I think we should document everything we have learned, Minsu suggested during their evening planning meeting. Not just the recipes and growing techniques, but the social methods too. Like a handbook for building interspecies communities. Hana asked. Exactly. Other worlds could use this information. We should include the mistakes we made too, J1 added. Learning what does not work is just as important as learning what does work. Kirill raised a crystalline hand. What if we created a training program? We could teach others how to establish communities like ours. You mean like teachers? Wisp asked, his gaseous form brightening with interest. More than teachers, Scar said thoughtfully. Like community organizers. People who help different groups learn to work together. That is a wonderful idea, Naya agreed. Every new colony could benefit from these techniques. Every existing community too, Vex pointed out. Most planets have multiple species living separately. They could learn to live together instead. We could call ourselves community cultivation specialists, Zara suggested. Minsu laughed. I just wanted to make sure people had good food to eat. Now you want to change how the galaxy thinks about community. Good food is community, Brick said seriously. When people eat well together, everything else becomes possible. Then maybe changing the galaxy is exactly what we should do, Hannah said. As they planned their new roles as teachers and community organizers, none of them realized that their simple food-sharing experiment had already begun the largest cultural revolution in galactic history. They just knew they were happy, well-fed and surrounded by friends, and they wanted everyone else in the galaxy to feel the same way. 6 months after what was supposed to be a 30-day survival test, the Galactic Council held an emergency session. The topic was simple but revolutionary: the complete restructuring of how galactic civilization approached survival, community, and cooperation. General Vorth stood before the council chambers, presenting the final report on survival test cohort 447. Honored council members, he began, I present the most successful experiment in Academy history. 100% survival rate. 0 psychological stress indicators, resource sustainability above all projections, and most importantly, the development of the first truly integrated interspecies community model. The council members murmured among themselves. This was unprecedented. The original test was designed to identify individual survival capabilities. General Vorth continued. Instead, we discovered something far more valuable. We learned that collaborative survival is not just possible, but superior to individual survival in every measurable way. What are you recommending? Asked Counselor Prime Keth. Complete restructuring of the Academy curriculum around what we now call the Human Protocol. All survival training will include mandatory workshops on resource sharing, community building, and interspecies cooperation. On Kepler 442c, the original test subjects had evolved into something none of them had expected. They were now teachers, researchers, and community organizers for the galaxy's first Interspecies Cooperation Institute. Minsu stood in the main teaching kitchen, addressing his newest class of students. These were not Academy cadets but actual colonists preparing to establish new settlements on frontier worlds. Remember, he told the mixed group of species, cooking together is not just about food. It is about learning to trust each other, communicate clearly, and work toward shared goals. These skills transfer to every other aspect of community life. What if our species have completely different dietary needs? Asked a young Saurian. Then you have opportunities to learn from each other, Minsu replied. Show me a species that only eats one type of food, and I will show you a species that has not explored all their options. He gestured to a table where a Fangari was, teaching crystal beings how to prepare bone broth while learning how to concentrate mineral energy in return. Different needs become learning opportunities when you approach them with curiosity instead of fear. In the Agricultural Research Center, Hannah was working with a team of interspecies engineers to design sustainable farming systems for 12 different types of worlds. The key insight, she explained to her research team, is that biological diversity creates stability. When you have multiple species working together, the whole system becomes more resilient to problems. But most colonial procedures assume species will live separately, pointed out Dr. Korv. Most colonial procedures result in failed colonies, Hannah replied. According to Academy records, 60% of single-species colonies fail within 5 years due to resource depletion, environmental problems, or social isolation. But integrated multi-species communities have a 95% success rate. How is that possible? Because different species solve problems differently. When you combine different approaches, you find better solutions faster. And when communities are more stable, individuals thrive better too. Meanwhile, Jaewon had become the galaxy's leading expert on interspecies social dynamics. His research center hosted diplomats, community organizers, and social scientists from throughout the galaxy. Traditional diplomacy assumes that different species need mediators to resolve conflicts, he explained to a group of ambassador trainees. But we have discovered that most conflicts disappear when species work together on practical projects. You mean shared work prevents conflicts? Asked Ambassador Trix, who had become one of Jaewon's regular students. Shared success prevents conflicts, Jaewon corrected. When different groups achieve good results together, they start identifying with each other instead of against each other. But what about fundamental biological or cultural differences? Differences become advantages when you frame them correctly. The Fangari hunting skills help everyone get protein. Crystal being energy processing helps everyone understand resource efficiency. Nebulan atmospheric knowledge helps everyone breathe better. Every difference is a potential contribution. The real proof of their success, however, was happening throughout the galaxy. On the mining world of Kepler 438b, a struggling single-species saurian colony had requested help from the Interspecies Cooperation Institute. Within 3 months of implementing the human community building protocols, mining efficiency had increased 40% and colonist satisfaction had tripled. On the agricultural world of Wolf 1061c, 3 separate species colonies that had been barely surviving independently had merged into a single integrated community. Food production had doubled, and the planet was now exporting surplus crops to other worlds. Even on the urban world of Proxima Centauri b, the ancient capital of galactic civilization, city planners were redesigning neighborhoods around community cooking centers and shared resource systems. The humans did not just solve a survival test, General Vorth reported to the Academy Board. They solved the fundamental problem of how different species can live together successfully. And the Academy has adopted these methods permanently? Asked board member Zen. More than adopted. The Academy has been restructured around these methods. We no longer train individual survival specialists. We train community cooperation facilitators. What about traditional military training? Individual combat skills? Competitive advancement? Still important, General Vorth admitted, but now taught within a framework of community support. Stronger individuals serve stronger communities, which in turn support stronger individuals. It is a positive cycle instead of a competitive struggle. And other institutions are adopting these changes? Every major educational institution in the galaxy has requested training materials. The Diplomatic Corps has restructured their entire approach around shared practical projects. Even military academies are teaching collaborative tactics alongside individual combat skills. Back on Kepler 442c, the 3 humans who had started it all were sitting around their original campfire, sharing their evening meal as they had done every day for 6 months. Did you ever imagine it would become this big? Hana asked as she watched ships landing and taking off from their expanded spaceport. I just wanted people to have good food, Minsu said, laughing. I never thought sharing recipes would change galactic civilization. Food was just the beginning, Jaewon pointed out. What we really shared was a different way of thinking about survival and community. What way is that? Asked Kirill, who had joined them for dinner as he did most evenings. That taking care of others is the best way to take care of yourself, Minsu said simply. That sharing knowledge makes everyone stronger. That differences are opportunities, not problems. That cooperation is more fun than competition, Hana added. And that good food makes everything better. Jaewon finished with a grin. So what do we do next? Asked Naya, who had also joined their regular dinner group. Keep teaching, Minsu said. Keep learning. Keep sharing good food with friends. Keep building communities where everyone can thrive, Hana added. Keep showing the galaxy that there are better ways to live together, Jaewon concluded. As the sun set over their community center, now bustling with students and researchers from dozens of worlds, the 3 humans who had accidentally revolutionized galactic civilization prepared for another day of sharing what they had always considered common sense. That survival was not about having enough to live, but about having so much abundance that everyone could thrive together, and that the best way to ensure your own success was to make sure everyone around you succeeded too. The galaxy, it turned out, had been thinking about everything all wrong, had taken 3 humans who could not understand why you would not share good food with hungry people to show them what they had been missing all along. Their future belonged to communities that cooked together, grew together, and thrived together, and it tasted absolutely delicious.